Ladies and gentlemen, today is a great day. I have with me right now a great leader and an exceptional decision maker. He is the CEO and co-founder of MaibornWolff, a rapidly growing and honestly an already big German IT company. Mr. Holger Wolff, thank you today for coming, for sharing your ideas with us.
Thank you, Ethan, for having me here in your video podcast. It's a great pleasure to be here with you and your audience today.
I hope my little introduction did you justice because it was very brief and short. But let's jump right into it. So in 2018, MybunWolff opened its first international office in Tunisia. As a Tunisian myself, I was intrigued why Tunisia exactly. Can't wait for your answer, but before we get to that, can you please tell us a little bit more about MybunWolff and its clients?
Yeah, thanks for asking the question about MybunWolff. MybunWolff is a typical German mid-size SMB IT provider. We have a long history for more than 25 years of building great software solutions for our customers. And the German IT market, because we have such a strong home base in terms of large industry customers, is very big. So the German IT professional services market is about 40 billion euro a year. And German companies, especially in times of digitization, invest a lot of money in building systems, in rebuilding systems they had in the past, in thinking about new systems they need to be competitive again in a digitization area. We have large customers such as Deutsche Bahn, German Railway, or BMW or Mercedes-Benz, but we have also medium-sized companies like Miele, which is a great brand for household appliances, and Stihl, they do chainsaws and lawn movers, and we will do a bit more than 60 million euro in revenue this year. And as you mentioned in your kind introduction, we've been growing with more than 20% for the last 10 years in a row. And yeah, that's even for the German IT professional services market, it's a great growth story, basically.
So I see that you are already growing very fast in Germany and in Europe in general. So with customers based in Europe, how did you come to the decision to jump continents and go to Africa?
Yes, I think it has several reasons. One of the reasons is I'm convinced that the future of Europe lies in Africa. And I think we need a strong partnership with Africa in terms of international security and refugee crisis, in terms of decarbonization and environmental issues, and in terms of growth and sustainable economic development in the African countries on the African continent. And then we actually came to the conclusion that Tunisia would be a good starting point for us in Africa. And I mean, we have several reasons for going and investing in Tunisia. One is, of course, we have so many talents in Tunisia. I mean, Tunisia has a great educational system. A lot of young people make BAC at high school in Tunisia and then decide to pursue with their university, take on studies at universities. And we have a lot of graduates from private universities like Esprit. We have a lot of graduates from state-owned university, and they are both good. And I think Tunisia has a great education system. We see many young talents in engineering and software engineering jobs. And I mean, the second reason, obviously, for us going outside of Germany was that we see that Europe has a talent crisis, a talent scarcity. We are not really affected because as MaibornWolff we always had a strong employer brand, so we always found enough software engineers basically even before we went to Tunisia. But obviously if you have such a great opportunity like Tunisia, you can even grow faster and you can offer more attractive packages actually to your customers, because obviously rates are lower in Tunisia than they are in Europe. That's not our primarily our first motivation to go to Tunisia, but obviously it makes it easier to sell like the product Tunisian expertise in software engineering to our clients.
We see like that the Tunisian education system has done some things right, at least.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Concerning the political and medical situation right now, it's a little bit sensitive. Does that worry you, and how do you feel about it?
Well, I mean, one reason to go to Tunisia was obviously that it's like the only democracy that's left from the Arabic Spring in 2010. And I mean, as all young democracies, we should not expect things to run super smooth from day one on. And I think the very recent development in Tunisia is like a hopeful sign, because it was very peaceful and it was actually supported by the majority of Tunisian people, and they expect things to become better from now on, and they expect now a new government actually to step in that is probably more capable to resolve the health system issues and the development issues and so on. Nevertheless, I mean, we're in the midst of a worldwide pandemic, and I mean, it makes it hard for any government actually to react, because as we both know, Tunisia is highly dependent on travel and tourism, and I mean, if that suffers for 2 seasons in a row the way it does, then it's obvious that economic situation is very tightened. My colleague Alex Hoffman, which is like the technical manager at MaibornWolff and is responsible for software engineering, always says the world needs much more software than the world can build right now. And I think this is very true, because we see such a huge increase in demand for good software, starting with apps for mobile phones, going further to back-end systems or to complete new systems. And I mean, software is built by talent and by talented people who are trained in the technology, but also in the methodology to develop great software. And Africa is the only continent in the world which has a talent surplus for the next 20 years, whereas all other continents or all major nations, even China, have talent scarcity. I mean, you have talent scarcity in Europe, you have a talent scarcity in North America and South America, you have a talent scarcity even in Asia, even if it sometimes doesn't look like this, but the Chinese population is aging rapidly because they had this one-child policy in the 70s, and the first generations who came out of this one-child policy will retire in the next 10 years, and then China as well has a huge talent problem. Africa is the only continent who has a talent surplus until far in the 2050s of the century, and we would like to establish a strong home base in Tunisia. We've almost got 50 people now in Tunisia, but this is probably not the last subsidiary we have in Africa, and we are thinking about a sub-Saharan subsidiary, but Tunis will also always be like our hub into Africa.
So this is good news for the youth, especially. Yes. Yeah, there is opportunity, there is chance. So as a last word, do you have anything to say for the Tunisian youth?
Yes, I think for the Tunisian youth, we can work together because we want to offer to Tunisian people an opportunity to make a great career in software development and a great career in IT, but to be able to stay in Tunisia. And for the last 20 years, if you wanted a good income, if you wanted a career, you left to France, or you left to Germany, or you left to Canada, or you left to the US. So you had to leave. You had to leave to make a career, and you had to leave. And that's also not good for a country, because if only the bright and young and talented leave the country and the rest remains, then obviously that slows down the development of a good nation. And I hope that we can both work together, like we find many young talented people who see their immediate future rather in Tunisia than outside of Tunisia, and we want to offer the jobs that are necessary actually to motivate people to stay in the country, to help building up this great country, and not to be forced to emigrate to France, to Canada, to the US, to Germany.
So basically bringing the future into Tunisia.
Yeah, bring the work to Tunisia and not bringing the Tunisians to work somewhere outside. Yeah.
So
I mean, obviously this will always happen. I mean, if somebody works for 10 years in Tunisia, maybe she or he wants to work for 2 years in
But at
France.
least there is a possibility, there is a chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
So people can choose.
Yes, absolutely. And the last reason, which I didn't mention, is Tunisia is just such a great country, and I love to be in Tunisia and sitting in a nice cafe in Sidi Bou Said and looking over the Mediterranean Sea is just great. It's like holiday for us in Germany, so Tunisia is also a great place to go. A lot of my colleagues like to travel to Tunisia to do workshops rather in Tunis than in Munich or in Frankfurt, because it's just more fun to be in Tunis than it actually is to be in Munich sometimes.
That's very nice to hear, really, as a Tunisian. And finally, I want to thank you so much for your time today. It has been such a great pleasure to know your ideas and thoughts about Tunisia.
Thanks, Ethan. And I mean, we can continue these talks. So if you want to invite me in 2 months or whatever, then we can maybe a little bit talk a bit more about the future,
more in depth,
what's ahead and more in depth.
Get into the details.
Okay.